So we're gonna jump in and get started here. Right at 12. It's just hitting 12 now. So I want to welcome everybody to our Lunch and Learn. So this month we were talking about independent living, but I thought it was a good time to visit the support groups that are out there. As you're looking for your child to be independent, as you are going through transition, you need those supports, believe me. So I wanted to make sure many of our parents, that you're aware of these support groups, who they are, what they do, and get that contact. And a lot of these groups, um, you don't have to have autism. Your child doesn't have to be diagnosed with autism or doesn't have to be diagnosed with something to participate or not participate in some of their events. Each one's different, yes, but some of their events, I mean, the different events are great. And it's always worth talking to the groups, even though it might have autism in the title. I just wanted to make sure you knew you can still reach out to them, even if your child has a different diagnosis, or same with Down syndrome. I mean, they're all there to help in some way to guide you. And of course, my voice is going to get cracky. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. We are going to I'm going to have does anybody need a particular order before I start? Anybody have to? Okay. So Joanie, I was going to let you start first. I'm going to let each of you just talk about yourself a little bit and introduce yourselves, because we have a couple. I'm still watching for Anne to jump on here, and I figured she would be last anyway. So I'm going to turn it over to Joanie, and let me know if you need me to share my screen with I have your presentations too, if you need me to.
Okay, I can probably share mine if I can
Yes.
figure out how to do that. I haven't done that in a while.
There should be the share screen.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Share. Okay, can everybody see that? Okay. All right. So thank you. Thank you also for letting me go first. I got my niece who has Down syndrome overnight, and her care provider, who was supposed to pick her up today, had a death in the family. So she's still here. So I might have to present and then hop off because she needs a little bit of support. So thanks for letting me go first. So I am Joanie, and I'm from
Joanie, your mic is going in and out. I don't know. Just to let you know.
Okay. It did come up and say my internet was unstable, unfortunately. So stop me if it freezes up. Can you hear me? Okay, so I am Joanie from the Down Syndrome Association, and I am actually our school age coordinator. So I work with all the kids who are from really 3 to 22, but my main area is 6 to 17. But as we know, they can stay in school until they're 22, so I can remain involved. But I'm going to talk about all of our programs. I'll just give you a brief overview. And if you have any questions or anything, you can feel free to send me an email, and I'm happy to give you more information. So I'll just go ahead and dive right in. So what is the Down Syndrome Association of Greater Cincinnati? So we in Kentucky and one in Indiana. We have 4 major programs, and I'll get into those a little more specifically, but we have our Early Matters program, which is our 0 to 5-year-olds. We have our school age program, which is me, which I already talked about. We have our young adult program, which is about 18 to 35. And then we're starting a new program focusing on aging, because our folks with Down syndrome tend to age quicker than the general population. So actually that aging specialist is going to be starting at the end of January. We're excited. We hired someone she worked in Hamilton County DDS and then Claremont County DDS. So we're excited to get that program. We do a lot of outreach and education. We have outreach and education specialists for employability, for education. in the government world, and what's our fourth one? Oh, medical world. Yeah. So that's what our outreach specialists do. We are also associated, we house the National Down Syndrome Adoption Network within Cincinnati, which is an amazing program. And then our biggest event throughout the year is our Buddy Walk. We have about 13 to 14,000 people that come to our Buddy Walk in early September, and we just celebrate the lives of people with Down syndrome. It's a great event. That's Maggie Rands. She is our early matters coordinator. So if you have any families, if any of you know of any families that have a child with Down syndrome and they're not connected to us, or if you have someone who gets a new diagnosis prenatal or after they're born, Maggie's the gal to call. She's great. So some of her main roles, she meets with new families. She provides ongoing emotional support because, as we all know, a new diagnosis can be scary and very emotional sometimes. She really does a great job of connecting families to each other. We all know as well, support is important, and we all need it to get through. She has a lot of resources that she can hook families up with, and then she plans a whole bunch of programming throughout the year. So some of her examples of her programming, she has a play group that gets together once a week. She's got gymnastics coming up this quarter. She does a play with the pros, which is like a therapeutic, like a trained therapist comes and just facilitates play, but also kind of can help with those fine and gross motor skills while playing. That's a great thing. She does toilet training classes for adults. She has a swim camp for her little ones, and then she just plans a lot of different socials and other programming throughout the year. So that's me, and that's my niece who's hanging out with me today. Her name is Peyton, but I'm the school age coordinator, and some of my main roles are I go to lots of IEP meetings. I went to 97 school meetings this past year, so I help families with all that fun stuff. I do peer presentations for gen ed peers just to kind of talk about what Down syndrome is and how people with Down syndrome are more like you than different, but I do talk about some of those commonalities that come with that extra chromosome. I'm available to do observations in schools just to kind of help give the team maybe some ideas if they're struggling with one of their students that has Down syndrome. I can do staff presentations, a lot of staff presentations for the schools, just to, again, to give an overview of what Down syndrome is and some of the commonalities that come with that and how the best ways to kind of teach a child with Down syndrome. I'm involved in transition meetings, whether that's transitioning from kindergarten to first grade, or whether that's transitioning out of high school and into the college world. And then I plan a whole bunch of programming. So some examples of my programming, we have a really great cheerleading squad. If you haven't seen us yet, we're amazing. We go around to all the different high school boys basketball games throughout our area and perform at halftime with their cheerleaders. It's really fun. I do a week-long bike to, let's see, we had 35 participants. It's open, I think, to 28 people that have Down syndrome, but also we keep some spots for folks that have autism, and if it doesn't fill up, then we eventually open it up to any disability. And you have to be 8 years old to be able to participate, but it's a really great program if you're looking for your kiddo to learn how to ride a bike. It's a really fun week. We have cooking classes. I've got soccer going on right now. I do a summer tutoring program. We have dance classes, martial arts classes. I'm doing college tours coming up, which is going to be a fun day. We're going to tour NKU's program and UC's program, so that's fun. So Stephanie Daly, that's her on the left. She is our young adult coordinator. She's only been with us for about 6 months, but she has really dove right in and has some great programs going on. She's mostly 18 years old to 35, but again, we all kind of overlap a little bit. She can help families with future planning. She helps with housing, employment, transportation, making social connections between our adults. She runs something called the TELL program. So that's actually UC speech and language students run that, and it helps with communication skills for our adults. She runs, we call it your Find Your Way program, which is overall focusing on independent skills for our adults. Some people that might mean independent skills living with their parents, but still trying to become more independent. For others, that might mean living on your own and working on the skills that you need to be able to do that. And then she plans a lot of different programming throughout the year as well. So, kitchen skills in the community and all kinds of fun stuff. I did not put a slide of our aging specialist on here yet because I don't have any pictures of her yet because she's not started, but that's going to be a really great program, really kind of one of the first ones in the nation in the Down syndrome world. So we're kind of figuring that out as we go, but Kim Wynn is her name, and she has had tons of experience in the DDS world. And so we're really excited to bring her on board and get all that started. So this is Molly and Saucy. Saucy is right there, and Molly is up here with one of our adults with Down syndrome. They are outreach specialists, and I kind of already talked about what they do. Molly does education and employment, and Saucy does medical and advocacy outreach. That is the end of that one. I also, my colleague, Amy Eiten, is our community group coordinator, and she couldn't be here today because she had to go to a surgery, not for herself, for one of her family members, but so she asked me to talk briefly about the community groups. So the community groups are wonderful. They really just the main goal of community groups is just to form meaningful connections between our families. Whoops, here we go. So as I said, we serve 12 counties, so that there's a lot of different needs based on where you live. So some of our community groups are based on where you live. We kind of do it by north, south, east, and west. And so that we can connect families with other families who live near them and are experiencing some of the same things and or need medical professionals or therapies or whatever. So the community and also just socially. So, we do a lot at the Down Syndrome Association, but we're in Norwood, and that's really far for people in Hillsborough. So even just making those connections so that they can have some social connections with each other.
We're seeing the previous presentation. Did you have another? Because you can you have to unshare to reshare.
Okay, stop share.
There you go.
And then share screen. Okay, and this one. Share. Sorry, I'm terrible with technology.
There you go.
You only missed one slide so far. It was just a connection slide, so we're good to go. So the community groups are considered extensions of the Down Syndrome Association. They're led by volunteers. We usually have 2 volunteer responsibilities that come with it, and I can talk more specifically about the different kind of community groups that we have. But some of the benefits are, the social opportunities for sure. It does increase participation among families within our organization because they get to do things in their own communities. Lots and lots of friendships have been made through our community groups. It does help us to serve a diverse population. So some of our community groups are based on your race and some are based on the age of your child. But we also have those ones that are just based on where you live too. We can pull in speakers that might be appropriate for one group that maybe wouldn't be appropriate for our entire group. So that's kind of nice as well. So the different types of community groups that we have, the area specific ones that I talked about, we have birth year groups where, and I'll go into more detail about that in the next screen. And then the special interest or affinity groups like our African American Family Network, our what was the other one? Oh, our Hispanic group, we have a homeschool group that recently started this year. So it's pretty nice that the families can really connect based on what their interests are. So the area community group, Southeast and West, Amy Eiten, the person who was supposed to present, she's the one who, if you're not connected to us already, she can get you connected to the appropriate groups that, would be appropriate for you. So please don't hesitate to reach out. You can reach out to me and or to Amy, and we'll get you connected to whatever you need to be connected to. So the area community groups, they usually do one activity a month, and a lot of it is social outings, which is great. But they do also plan some different educational topics where they might invite a speaker to come and talk, or whatever the topic may be. We also have our birth year groups. So this is really nice because it's kind of like mentoring a little bit. So, sorry. They're usually led by a parent who had a child 1 year earlier, if that makes sense. So that families, they're going through all the same things that family went through the year before, and that leader can either answer their questions or get them connected to other people. So the birth year groups are really nice. Plus, then all their kids are kind of going through the same things, and really start those social connections early. It's great. These are our special interest community groups. We have our family network, our teen club, we have a dad's group, the homeschool group, we have a grandparents group. So it's really nice for our families. Our dads have really flourished recently as well. It's great. So this kind of just talks a little bit more about the special interest community groups. They don't do an outing once per month. They have several activities throughout the year, and it just kind of varies per group on what they do. So here's some of the examples of community group events. So they have a lot of workshops. They do a lot of family outings. They have a lot of moms' nights out, which we all need. Lots of play dates and lots of parties. We have if you haven't been to our organization, we have we call it our empowerment center, and it's just a big open room. We can basically do whatever we want with it. So sometimes we will have speakers come and we set it up with tables and chairs. Sometimes we're just having a big party. Sometimes our community groups are having a big party. So it's just a really nice space for our families to utilize. This is Amy's contact information. She's also our volunteer coordinator as well. So even if you're not, even if you don't have a family member with Down syndrome, if you want to volunteer with us, we're always open to volunteers. I don't know if we have time for questions, or if you just want to email me questions, if you have any. My email address is the same as Amy's, but it's just Joanie, JOANIE @dsagc.com. You can find me on our website as well. And you can check out all of our different programs and all of our different programming going on right now on our website as well. We usually plan that quarterly. So
thank you, Joanie.
thank you so much for questions.
Is there any questions? Does anybody have any questions specifically for Joanie before we move on to the Autism Connections? If you think of one later, that's still fine. You can put the question in the chat box. Even if Joanie has to leave, we can still get you connected. Maybe Joanie, if you want to type in the email real quick into the chat box so they have it before you have to, in case you have to leave. So, all right. Well, we will, if there's no questions for Joanie, at this time, we will move on to Mary Helen. Do you want to go next? You're on mute then.
Sure. I did that before I clicked the unmute button, so classic. Well, thank you very much. I'm excited to be here. So my name, I'm hoping y'all can see the screen. My name is Mary Helen Reeker, and I'm the CEO of Autism Connections. And just to kind of give you all a little background, although I'm going to shortly stop saying this, a little over a year ago, we were called Autism Society Greater Cincinnati. So just to put things in perspective, same organization, new name. So don't think that we're a brand new organization that you've never heard of. We've been around a little while. So a little bit about us. We actually started in 1971. So this year we will celebrate 53 years of serving the greater Cincinnati area. And we really have, over the last 53 years, worked on trying to support families with autism wherever they are, which is a big challenge. We work with individuals from diagnosis, individuals and families from diagnosis through the entire lifespan in a variety of ways. And I'll talk about those in a minute. I also want to say we don't just work with individuals and families. We also touch professionals, right? Extended family, companies, first responders. So there's a lot of work that we do. Really to help people understand and navigate the world of autism, which is a very complicated world. So we offer a variety of programs, and I'll get a little bit into that in a minute, from support groups to recreational to life skills to community trainings. And we're slowly but surely growing our reach and the program offerings that we have. So we'll talk about both some of the things that we've done a long time and some of the things that are new that you should be watching out for in 2024. I will just note that for 2023 through 2025, we are really focusing on growing programs and services for teens and adults. And part of our reasoning for that is that we know that there are a lot of services and opportunities for little ones. I'm not saying there's enough, but there are more than there are for teens, transition age, and adults. And so we really are working at connecting people, finding areas where there are gaps, and figuring out either how to support others in filling those gaps or working on filling those gaps ourselves. So our focus, while we work with both the entire spectrum and the entire lifespan, our focus area really is transition and adults for the next couple of years, to build more programming in that area. And I'll talk more about what some of that is in a second. So we have really kind of 5 areas of focus in our programming, and I'll give you a high level here, and then we'll go more into depth on them in just a few minutes. So we do social activities, which really are fun, structured, depending on the age group, activities really designed for making friends. The whole idea is to find your people, to find your community. So we create spaces for that, for all ages. We have started some life skills programs, and these are multi-week programming that are designed to focus on a particular skill area. Again, I'll talk more about that in a minute. We do support groups for a variety of ages, and we're always looking for more opportunities to support individuals. So we'll talk about that as well. We do a lot of resource and connections. So we have a large resource database, and we have a couple of dedicated people who work on connecting people to the various local resources. And then we do a number of trainings on autism, from first responder trainings to trainings on autism, to companies, to businesses. We do autism in the workplace trainings and those kind of things. Okay, let's dive just a little deeper real quickly into each one of these areas. So in our social activities space, we have programs for kids, teens, and adults. So our kids program is once a month in person for 2 hours on a Saturday morning. And we limit this to 18 participants because we break them up into 3 groups, and they have opportunities to experience 3 different types of activities. And those activities vary. Some months we will have music, other months we will have physical activities, we will have an art project, a sensory project. We work with a number of community members to bring in some fun activities. So we've in the past had ensemble theater come in and do some improv work. And so that's really fun, but really taking our kids and exposing them to a variety of activities. Our Teen Time Hangouts happens again, also once a month in person. And this is a Friday night event. This is less structured than our kids program. And part of that is because we want teens to feel like they can come and hang out, right? Hence the name. So we have a lot of activities, but they make choices on what they want to do or not do. So we'll have an art activity. This month, for example, we're going to do some diamond art activities, and they can choose to do that, or they can choose to do, I think we're going to do a photo booth. And we've done, in December, we did a snowball fight with, foam snowballs. They make those choices. Sometimes their choices are to sit and just talk with other people, which has been a huge thing, right? This is really the idea is teens hang out with other teens, get to know them, make friends, and do activities that they would enjoy. I will say we also have pizza, so big draw for a lot of our kids because we always have pizza. Adult game nights. This one we run weekly online, and we have a following from 4 different countries and 7 states, I think, I feel like. So lots of individuals. This is online, and every week the adults make decisions on what kind of a game they want to play. So we sometimes do competitive games, we sometimes do relaxed games, sometimes we break up into more than one game depending on how many individuals we have. But this really is a way for adults to really get together, have fun, and enjoy each other's company. All right, let's move on to life skills. So life skills is something new that we began in 2023. I was like, what year did we do that? It feels like forever ago. This we started with the Peers program. So maybe some of you are familiar with Peers. It comes out of UCLA, and it is a 16-week course on social skills. So we have been trained, and we're certified facilitators for Peers, and we really teach the demystification of those social rules. How do you make friends? How do you start a conversation? How do you enter a conversation? For adults, oh my goodness, talk about the rules of dating. We talk about the rules of dating, right? There are lots of them. I have to tell you a quick story. We had an adult who his whole purpose for being there was to learn how to better communicate because he wanted a girlfriend. So when we got to dating, he was taking copious notes. It was fabulous. And he had lots of questions. And he came to us and he's like, I have this girl I really like. And we're like, okay, but follow the rules, follow the rules, follow the rules. And he came back after we had done this series and he asked her out and they went on a date. And he's like, I'm so proud of myself. I didn't tell her I love her on the first date. I'm like, so does she want a second date? Well, yeah, that was his problem internally, was he was just like, oh my gosh, she loves me, she likes me, so I must love her. And so he always jumped too fast. And he was so pleased. As a matter of fact, he was concerned because now he wanted to share on social media how he felt over the holidays. But rather than doing that, he called us and he said, so I want to tell the world that I love her. I'm like, okay, hold on. What are the rules? He's like, the rules say we haven't dated long enough. I should slow it down. I should talk to her about it because we haven't even talked about whether we're boyfriend, girlfriend for, okay. So to really see that and to see him flourishing, and for the first time in 27 years, right, have multiple dates with the same girl. It's kind of a big deal. So that's been really exciting to see. None of these, I want to say, none of these are we saying you have to change who you are. We're just saying, here are the social rules. Here are some tips and tricks to understand them. Whether you use them or not is up to you, right? Because we don't want people to change who they are, but we do really want them to understand how saying I love you on the first date might impact a second date, right? So new in 2024 is our post-peers career exploration working title for me, because we're still figuring that out. But this really, the end of this month, we're launching for a small group. We're piloting a program where we're working with Genesis at Work, which is another great organization that if you don't know about, Patty, I'll connect them to you because they're a great career exploration organization. And there's so much they do there. We are working with them to bring a 6-week class once a month for 6 months, designed really to talk about social skills in interviews and workplace challenges, right? What you can and can't or shouldn't do, right? The cautions of like becoming the best friend with someone at work, the benefits of becoming friends with people at work. So really taking and demystifying some of that as well. And this summer, we're launching a financial literacy course, which will be a multi-week course. I don't know how many weeks yet. We're thinking 12, but we're still finalizing the development of this program. But we're really working on breaking down financial concepts and making them practical, and then making them also usable in the immediate now. So how do we practice budgeting? How do we practice, right? Those kind of things. All right, I know my time is almost up, so let me go real quick here. Support groups, we run support groups for adults, parents, and we even have one in Spanish. Support groups really are designed for people to talk about their successes, their challenges, you know, lean on other people's shoulders and learn from other people. So we offer a variety of these. And in certain situations, we even are taking our program into other places. So Linden Grove School, for example, has asked us to come and do a parent support group for their parents specifically. And we're really excited about launching that. So I say this because if you have a group where you're like, hey, could we do yeah, reach out. We can certainly. And I know, Patty, you said this at the very beginning, this is not limited to autism, right? We speak from the lens of autism, but if you have a child with a disability and you think this would be helpful, come see if we're your people, right? We might be. I will note that we have one in Spanish that is run by a native Spanish speaker. And so this is a really big piece for us that we're meeting our Spanish speaking community where they're at with their language. We translate those support groups into, we find a lot of people need resources and connections. So we run a helpline, and we have actually an English and a Spanish helpline. So our native Spanish speaker runs a helpline where our native Spanish speakers can call and actually get support, resources, connections who also speak Spanish. So that's a really helpful piece. But our helpline has been a long-running program, so if you don't know about it, you really should. This is where individuals, families, community members, professionals, if you have a question about autism or you're looking for a resource or looking for a connection, we might just have that for you. So do call us, and I'm gonna keep going here. Once I'm done, I can put the contact information all into the chat. The final thing that I want to highlight are really quickly are our trainings. So I mentioned at the beginning that we do trainings of all sorts. The photograph happens to be a picture of, I don't know, the 3rd or 4th time that I've trained Ohio Landsar, which is our land and search rescue here in Claremont County, and they work through a Southwest Ohio. And so I've actually gone out on calls with them when they have a person who has wandered or eloped with autism that they're looking for. So we do that. We do autism in the workplace talks. So we've talked to managers and groups of employees about what it is to work, what it's like to work with a person with autism, how accommodations are really not difficult. So if you know someone who might want a conversation about what is autism, again, to demystify the complexities of working, living, and being in community with people with autism, we do those kind of trainings as well. All right, finally, real quick, lots of ways to get in touch with us. We have a whole lot more information on our website, and stay tuned because there's a new website coming out in the spring. I'm very excited, which will be a little easier to navigate, I think, for folks as well. But get in touch with us. I'll put my contact information in the chat as well. And if there are any questions, I will take them. But if not, I will turn it back over.
There was 2 questions out there, Mary Helen. The one you answered, they wanted to ask if you accept adults that are not autistic, which, I know you had answered that one. And I think that's for any program pretty much, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. If you feel this might be a fit for your adult, for your child, please check it out. Yeah. I've never checked a diagnosis and I won't start. So
the other one was, what financial literacy curriculum are you going to use?
So we're actually working with Modern Woodmen of America. They have a curriculum, and we are working with them and Black Bull Capital Partners to take curriculum that already exists and adapt some of those pieces for autism. And if you're looking for the name of that curriculum, I can't tell you precisely, but I can drop my email in, and if you want that, I can let you know precisely. So, but we are adapting that for autism and disabilities, because some of it is maybe not as intuitive as it should be.
Yeah, and that's a very, I know with that's just a very big challenge, just the financial part of it. What they understand, I mean, everybody understands it differently, and how you handle it or present it, or how for them to understand. And that's a big independent living kind of step toward, something to learn towards that step for independent living. So
100%.
So if you have any more questions for Mary Helen, you can still drop them in the chat box, or when she puts her contact, you can email her directly if it's something more personal, or something more direct you want to learn about after this session. Our next speaker is Teresa Harris, and I'll let you give a little intro. Do you want me to share your presentation?
Sure, that would be great.
Okay, so while I get that up, you can go ahead and start talking.
Okay, great. Hey, hi, my name is Teresa Harris. I'm a parent. My son is 24. He was diagnosed at age 3. And before I get started, I just kind of want to backtrack here to the Autism Connections, or previous Autism Society. Families, they are an excellent organization. I'll just give you a quick example. Their helpline is super. I had a family who the parents had passed away unexpectedly. Grandma needed help. She needed some references for where to go for counseling and a psychologist. And I spoke directly to the helpline, and they took everything and they supported that family. So just kudos to the Autism Connections, and just know that they are very willing to help you. Just make the connection. So they have tons of resources. So I just wanted to kind of say that Mary Helen does an amazing job. So great organization. So for us, I'm going to tell you quickly a little bit about my background. Then I'm going to tell you about a method called RPM, Rapid Prompting Method, which enabled my son to go from picture communication system, which was what he was taught in school, to being able to spell a word, a sentence, thoughts, reasoning, logic, and full communication. The method is kind of a growing method. Well, it's not kind of, it is a growing method worldwide. So, so that's kind of where we're going to go. I think a lot of people and parents have children on the spectrum who cannot speak. They do not have a reliable form of communication. And this is a real key to being able to live a full and successful life. And it affects the family. So it affects every aspect of your life and their life. So anyways, we'll get into that. So back to me. Ryan was diagnosed at age 3. I had made the decision with my husband that I was not going to work and I was going to learn everything I could, because he was one of the most severe, as I found out later, many years, severe children who had autism in the Mason City School District. So I went through all the protocol and doing all the good things that I was instructed, and still came to an age about 7 years old where his behaviors were becoming very aggressive and he could not communicate. And I had done everything top to bottom. That was a method that was recommended to me. And so I found this method. And what you're looking at right now is Soma Mukherjee and her son Tito. They are the founders of the method. She came from India to the United States. In India, they had said, that they needed to just simply put him into an institution. There was no help for him. She, as a chemist and now a special educator, she said, no, there's a way. There's some way to find my son and be able to communicate with him. And that started the method probably over 25 years ago. So it is a method that is super, and it is emerging. And what you're looking at here is a group called Unlocking Voices using RPM out of London. This is another parent and son who have created a massive information Facebook group that can really help parents. So if you're interested, I recommend that you go to Unlocking Voices. I recommend that you go to the Halo website and begin learning yourself about the method to help your kids. So go ahead and for the next page. So, a brief introduction to RPM. I was very unsure because my son could not, and still to this day, cannot tie his shoes. He has great challenges, motor planning, and he was completely nonverbal. And from that point, he moved to now being able to communicate fully and now working on speaking. So it's very exciting about the method. And now go ahead to the next screen. You can see that because of the success, because of how effective it is growing worldwide. They have locations all over the world. There are parent groups in many states now. On Facebook page, you can connect with different states. You can connect with our group here, RPM Cincinnati, and on Facebook, and join the community. So there's a lot of resources coming up, and it's a grassroots type of kind of culmination. So I have been doing RPM for 17 years. And parents, I'll just be very honest with you, for 17 years, if there was something that was more effective than this method, I would be doing it. But it gave my son a voice and a way for him to communicate. And that is everything. So we'll go on to the next page. Thank you. So here's a little background. It was developed by Soma Mukherjee, a teacher and chemistry professor who has a son with autism. She's a founder of the Halo Clinic, and it's located in Austin, Texas. And there's her website. So you have that for your reference. One of the things that people think, well, it's like a communication, it's a letter board. It is so much more than that. RPM is the foundation of communication through the ability to understand their sensory systems. I kind of equate it to Helen Keller. So if everybody knows about Helen Keller, you know, how did she teach Helen to communicate? RPM is the same way in that they teach through their senses. So for example, Ryan was presented with tons of visual pictures, visual schedules, but Ryan's predominant open learning channel was auditory. So he was hearing everything, but he couldn't get his eyes looking and hearing at the same time. So this method started out with his strongest channel, and he built up a tolerance and a way to integrate his sensory system. So the books here are her manuals. They are parent friendly. I recommend using the Understanding Autism, the red manual as your beginning manual. But it talks about behaviors and helping students who have some verbal language, motor planning issues, also curriculum guides. So there is just a vast array of information. Now, just to update this, there are many books from authors around the world, children who have used this method, and their voice has become known worldwide. So there's lots of books, lots of information, lots of groups popping up that are kind of using the method of sensory integration in order to form communication. So it's just growing in big ways. So the next part, go ahead, thanks. So here's a few key points. It is a teaching method tailored to each student's open learning channel. So people are like, well, what is an open learning channel? And I didn't know what that was either. But there are two predominant, and it's based on how your sensory system functions. There's two predominant channels, and one is visual and one is auditory. The secondary learning channels are tactile and then kinesthetic. So for example, Ryan is auditory. So if you presented to him a picture, he would not understand. But if you explain to him auditorily, he would be better able to understand and then show you through choices how he understands and learning can take place for that student. So it also empowers the learner with the best possible means to express his or her own thoughts, understandings, learning, and reasoning. So why do we educate our kids? You know, she has students that are 65 years old. Why do we use education as a tool to help with communication? Because we want more than communication. Like, here is a Dorito chip. I want a drink. How limited is that? We want to develop thinking in order to be able to choose and reason out maybe which choice would be the better choice. So in education, this helps to cognitively develop our children. So, and the next point is rapid, oops, we'll stay there real quick. The next point is it gives them an alternative means of expressions that are tailored to their sensory and cognitive development needs. So again, autism is a spectrum disorder. There are many, many children who are presenting differently. Some might be predominantly visual. Those are the kids who do really good with the visual schedules, right? Or some sort of detailed task. There are kids who are auditory. There are kids that are constantly moving, where they're learning through moving, or tactile, touching, putting things in their mouth, right? How do you teach through that? Just like Helen Keller, the method itself helps to integrate those senses in order for them to develop reasoning and logic and to be able to communicate. So through choices, started with Ryan, 2 simple paper choices to spelling, to writing, to speaking, to communicate. And the use of the senses, which are the open learning channels for better understanding. So for example, Ryan would hit the wall all the time and he would flick his hand in front of his face all the time. Well, I just thought that was like weird behavior. But this is the key to the open learning channel. When he's stimming, you use this visual need to teach at that moment. So let's keep going and we'll talk a little bit about this because it's very exciting. It's very groundbreaking. I mean, to be able to take a method and customize it to that kid. That's why our children aren't able to learn, because we're not customizing it to their sensory systems. Many of these kids' sensory systems are challenging. And so, anyways, we'll just keep going to the next screen. So here it just kind of talks about teaching through RPM. So it incorporates the use of students' strongest channel, so auditory, kinesthetic, and tactile, to maximize their understanding and to present information to them in a way that they can respond. So, for example, Ryan could not tie his shoes. He would look at a book upside down. But as we began, he could tap a letter. He could tap a choice because we were auditorily speaking that choice to him. So his eyes didn't have to necessarily look at the papers. He could hear me say with a tap, is it blue or is the sky orange? And he could tap because he could guide his eyes slowly, but he heard what I was asking him. So he could show me. He's in there. He knows these things. It gives him a way to communicate. So we'll go to the next one. There we go. So in the method, it uses vision and tactile and auditory and kinesthetic based on the child's need at the moment learning is taking place. So for example, have you ever been sitting in front of a computer, or you're just sitting at the kitchen table and you're looking at a magazine? Well, you're like, your eyes are tired and you're like, you don't want to look at that visual presentation. So you turn on an audio tape, right? You turn on Audible, right? We all have our preferences of learning channels. I prefer, which is interesting, my son is auditory as well. I prefer listening to a lecture versus taking notes and visually looking at a presentation. So just like us, our children have strengths. Their stimming is the key to that window to understand how to teach them. So for example, if you had a visual student, you'd be drawing pictures. You'd be tracing words. You would create like kind of paper manipulatives. You would use pictures. But for an auditory child, you would tear the paper because that's a cue to attend. When I'm about to ask Ryan a question, I would rip the paper and he would hear that choices are coming. I would tap the choice on the table with a pencil. I would use my voice very softly like this, or I would increase the pace to use my voice to gain his attention so learning could take place. Tactile, I would hand him the pencil. I would do hand over hand. We would draw with stencils. And kinesthetic would be more like using a hand over hand grabbing of his hand so he could move his hand, not just sit there and look at a flashcard, right? I would tap his arm or touch his fingers in order to help him kinesthetically understand his body, the area around him. So those are kind of just a snapshot of what RPM providers and what parents can learn in order to help bring communications to their children through RPM. So we'll go to the next one. So ultimately, this is what we want as parents, as educators. We need joint attention, right? When you say, hey, look, you know, we need to go to the car. We need to get out of the car. We need to we need to look at the door. We want the child to connect with us, right? So we need joint attention in order, A, to keep them safe, in order for them to learn. So if I'm presenting information, I'm teaching them, for example, how to utilize money, how to handle a social situation, how to make a friend. If I don't have his joint attention, I could be talking till I'm blue in the face, right? So when you teach to that open learning channel, my kiddo being predominantly auditory, now he's both. He can visually read now, he can auditorily hear. He said, Mom, such interesting teaching, got eyes looking. So his senses became to integrate together to form joint attention. And so his stimming, right? Many of our kids are just stimming and you can't break through and you can't communicate with them. And they're getting more excited and more excited. We use calming techniques. And like, for example, I would drop my voice. I would touch Ryan's arm because he's tactile and he's kinesthetic. I would whisper. I would increase my pace. I would talk to beat the stem. I would become the most interesting thing in the room in order to gain that joint attention. The key to having joint attention is in beating the stem, what's going on with their sensory system in order for them to focus, for teaching, learning to take place, logic and reasoning to lay in, and they begin to have a life that's fulfilling. They're totally being transformed. It is more than simply I want a Dorito chip flashcard. So it's just a beautiful way that as they're doing more and more analysis of the brain, there's more and more MRIs, there's ability to see how our children's brains are developed or are not developing, and how sensory integration and the sensory system obviously is connected to the brain. So with all of this new information, I anticipate this method to grow fold in the next 5 to 10 years. So let's go to the last slide. So skills that can be incorporated with the use of RPM. So people will say, well, you know what? My kid can tell me this and that. He can tell me if he wants to eat. He can tell me if he wants to go to the bathroom, but that's pretty much about it. So in RPM, with the understanding of how to work with your particular child, listening can increase, comprehension can increase, choice making can increase, initiation, which is what? Initiating to do something, which is ultimately independence, right? Motor planning can improve, visual perception, ocular motor, handwriting, keyboarding, spelling and grammar, and communication. So everything for that child will improve when you're understanding how the brain is working and when you understand their sensory needs. So the next one, so how does that work? It worked with 2, 3, and 4 written choices. So initially it was paper choices. I would spell the word. I would say every letter, cat, C-A-T, or did I say it was a dog, D-O-G, that barked, right? Cat or dog. That's how it started. Then it went to 6 letters, or then it went to a rolled letterboard where visually, right, if you look at that board, very visually challenging, there's 26 letters, but it doesn't start with 26 letters. It may start with just 2 letters. It may start with 4 letters. And then they slowly progress over time to being able to scan, visually scan, and just simply do a tap or point with their finger to a 26 letter alphabet board. Then we do handwriting, we go flat, and we go to speaking. So it is a progression over time that will help your child to, and you, for sure, you mom and dads, to be able to have the quality life that you've always dreamed about for your kids. So here's how to get started. You've got all those references. You can look at Halo, you can join the Facebook group, you can utilize the manuals, you can find a local provider here in the area under Unlocking Voices, or Halo Facebook page. There's a list under files, which just is a quick reference list for you there. You can plan to attend a 4-day instructional camp. You can attend a level 1 training, which is what I have done. And many people, many parents go, they see a provider and they're sold, and they go in and they learn the training and they become equipped. And I always say to people, you know what, this is not a method that has any kind of medication to it. It is not a method that can hurt your son. It is a paper and pencil educational method. So prove to yourself it doesn't work. Invest in learning to show if it's something that your son or daughter would be able to do. So, you know, there are many, some studies, some case studies out, some evidence-based case studies. There's one on visual scanning and tracking. That's a great one in, I think, the Scientific Journal. But you'll get the pushback on, well, it's not an evidence-based methodology. I want to say to you again, you need to look deeply into what that looks like for you. I would say if it was medicine or some sort of medical intervention, yes. But this is paper and pencil and teaching, typical academics. So look into it, because for 21 years, I have been in the special education arena, and methodologies take time to develop in community. And so I just didn't have the time. My son's behaviors were getting out of control, and I knew he was trying to talk to me, but he couldn't communicate. So one of the best decisions for now 17 years that I've ever done, and you'll see hundreds and hundreds and probably now thousands of people across the country and across the world doing the method. So I hope this helps you.
Thank you, Teresa. I think many of the parents over the course of SALT and over the course of the years, many of them talk about, and Ann, you can go ahead and share your screen if you want real quick, because I know we're running tight on time, but and you can introduce yourself. But I just, many parents I've heard over the course of time, just how their child is nonverbal, and they struggle with that. So I wanted to make sure they met you and met the program that you work with. And so we're gonna, if you have any questions for Teresa, I guess you can put your email in there. You can email her directly, or you can put your question in the chat and she can answer it in the chat. And we're going to turn it over to Ann Tapia, because I know we're very tight on time, or a little over time. So go ahead, Ann.
So thank you for having me. My name is Ann Tapia. I'm with the Ohio Department of Developmental Disabilities, and I serve in the Community Life Engagement team supporting Southwest Ohio. Great to see so many great friends today. If I have to summarize in just a sentence or two everything I'm about to give to you, I would say, please reach out with any questions. I have not met a single person at the department, and I've been in this role for a year now, and I haven't met a single person who hasn't said, please just call us. We just, we will help. We want to be accessible and accommodating. So I dropped my email address in the chat, and then also a link to a regional map, which if I can get the slides to move, will show you who your contacts are, no matter where you are in the state, out of each of the departments. And then also to say, if you don't know who at the state to call, just call any of us or email any of us, and we will get you to the right place. So that is the summary of what I have to say, especially on this topic of help. I have more questions. Who do I reach? Any of us. I have more slides than I can possibly cover, but I really wanted to make sure that you had the information. I'm going to fly through it very quickly because we're over on time and because I do have another meeting that I need to get to. This is just a quick visual of the various departments that are accessible to you and are intentionally outreach folks, people who are there for you. So please do think about who you might need to reach out to in these various subject areas. Today, I'm really going to only talk about community life engagement, the outreach and education, and very briefly, the cross systems behavioral health support team. So with that, we're starting with community life engagement, which is the team that I sit on. You see my contact information alongside the team members. I'm not going to go into the details there, but please know that you have access to any of us. What is community life engagement? Our hope is to do similar to what Teresa was saying in terms of unlocking that potential and helping to really break into what matters most for each person. That's what we want to help do too. Our focus is on initiating the Employment First and Technology First initiatives across the state, which basically means we want to make sure that everybody's having a conversation about what their options are for employment, no matter where they land on the spectrum of actually being employed, right? So we just want to make sure that those conversations are healthy, robust, and individualized to the person. And we are there to help support the team, the person themselves, the county board, the providers, all of the people. So please reach out and we will help in all the ways that we can. Same with technology. I don't know a single person who doesn't have a phone, a smartphone at this point in life, and we use technology in ways that we can't even fathom life without it, right? So if we aren't having those conversations with folks with disabilities, we're leaving them behind, and it's really an issue of equity. So we in our team really hone in on opportunities to ensure that as we identify unmet needs, how can technology be part of the solution? So we work across regions and systems to ensure that those good individualized discussions are happening so that as we think about what a meaningful life can look like, it is well beyond services and supports. It is about, what allows for a person to be a meaningful member in their community, be valued, have ways to connect with people and contribute. So far more about the setting and way more about what a person wants in their life. So again, to that same theme, stressing what can people do, not what they can't do, and thinking about community in a way that is really meaningful for that person. I have 2 links here to additional content on that very brief overview of community life engagement, the Employment First website and Technology First website, which are both chock full of so many good resources. And I, again, will say, reach out to me and we'll have more conversation. The Ohio Life Course Nexus team is focused on, honestly, again, same concept of what is a meaningful life for people. But this team is all made up of folks who have lived experience. So Corey, who is the state team lead, is a father. You can see a picture of his family there. Lovely people. Meredith is a mom, excuse me. And then Nate himself has a disability. So they bring to us at the state the information of their own personal experiences, as well as being the outreach and education team that is supporting those who reach out to the DODD system. And gathering all of that good data about what's broken with our system so that they can help us to inform how we do better and how we make policy changes that are really far more effective in the ways that we want to be supporting people. So the Ohio Life Course Nexus team utilizes the Charting the Life Course framework as a tool to help embrace those conversations. I'm sure that there has been some discussion of charting the life course at some point in the SALT talks. If not, please reach out on that behalf and we'll be glad to do some additional conversations with it. There are a ton of resources within this framework to help have good conversations that are individualize and really get at the heart of what people hope and want for in their lives. So the Ohio Life Course Nexus team utilizes this as kind of the roots of their discussions with folks, both at that systems level as well as at the individual level. They have a ton of projects that they're involved in, and I just want to quickly point out that many of the folks that you've heard from today are connected with this team in various ways. So they're thinking not just at that state level, but on the local level as well, and being involved in those projects as often as they can. Ways that you can be involved with DODD, because we really do want your voice. The Family Advisory Council group is a opportunity that meets on a regular basis for folks to hear updates from the state and also to share back, you know, information and real life context to how policy is being put into practice in real life. So it's a great opportunity to stay connected to the state and have your voice heard. There's also a core group of people who are nominated by that Family Advisory Council to shape what those meetings look like and make sure that the content is relevant to what people need and want within the community, and that the state information is being shared out in a way that is helpful to people. The outreach and education, I mentioned the Family Advisory Council and core group. They also have a number of ways that outreach is happening just in different various ways. The Connection newsletter, there's a Facebook family forum group, and then Growing Family Resilience and the Supporting Families webpage. So I would encourage you to check all of those out for a ton of resources that will either hit your inbox or you can scroll through at your own time. Included in that are some toolkits, and there's a variety of them. There's just little snapshots of some of the examples that are available in that system. But the other piece that I want to highlight in this is that the Ohio Life Course Nexus team is always looking for what is the next best toolkit that needs to be developed based off of the feedback of what's being heard. So they listen for the themes of the calls, the outreach, the emails, and discussions that they're involved in to say, we really need to develop a toolkit on this because there's some confusion across the state. So those are open to your feedback, and please do share what your hopes are in terms of having some toolkits available to you. There are collaborative work groups that this team is part of that I won't go through all of them, but just a quick glimpse at they're trying to be informed and inform in a variety of places and spaces that cover the full lifespan and a variety of perspectives, recognizing that everybody's experience is different. And so we need to really be thoughtful and intentional from the state level to ensure that voices are being heard, and we aren't just trying to create supports that are helpful for one subset of our community. As I mentioned, they are available for family inquiries and really trying to hone in on what those gaps and barriers are for families so that they can help inform our system. That outreach and education is available and focused on a variety of people, including the county boards. So if there are difficulties that are coming up as themes in specific areas, they can help in that way. The independent living centers, and then some kind of statewide diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility collaborations across the state. And Nate has been very involved in some housing options conversations and has become a wealth of resources in that area. Nate is fabulous. If you don't know him already, please get to know him through both the newsletter and the podcast that's happening. I just adore Nate, so I have 1,000 kudos to say, but the podcast has been one that he has stepped in and revamped in a way that is so much more accessible for people than I think it has been in the past, and relevant, right? It's bringing in topics and conversations that people actually need. So check those out. There is a group, I feel like I'm skipping past it. Did I go past it? There's a group called, oh, it's right there. The Advocate Group, the Disability Connect, which is brand new to this Ohio Life Course Nexus team. The Family Advocacy Group has been focused on the family experience and those organizations who serve families. Nate has started a Disability Connect, which is for those with disabilities themselves to have a similar platform and opportunity to hear state updates and then share back. This is what this actually looks like in my life and how it's helping and how it's not. Alongside that is that disability newsletter connection and information resource opportunities to share out. So lots of ways to get connected from that person with lived experience level as well. Same thing available for support on that individual level. Lots of different ways that that team has supported people, as well as bringing in other DODD supports as needed as those conversations indicate, some additional support. Very quickly, the Cross Systems Behavioral Health Team. If you're not familiar with them, they focus in on the multi-system youth. So those who are accessing developmental disability supports as well as mental health supports, which we often find can be challenging, not only because it's difficult to navigate multiple systems, but also because the needs of the person can be really nuanced. And so this team is specialized in thinking about how do we support and wrap around those individuals, those families, as well as the team to keep people in their homes and in their communities and with the right size support. I'm getting the internet connection is unstable. I hope you can hear me. Can you still hear me? Okay, cool. Almost done. The Trauma Informed Care webpage has a wealth of information on there, including tons of trainings and videos. And then if you are looking for a biographical timeline to happen, which is a beautiful visual representation of a person's story and what has been helpful in their life, as well as the things that have not been helpful and traumas in their life. And it allows the team to really get a better understanding of some of the barriers. So access to that information is there. The Wellness Project is focused on building resilience. So along those lines of trauma, how do we ensure that the strengths that we each bring are cultivated, and that we are cultivating that in the people we support? So again, tons of great information there. There's no way I covered all of the questions that you may have, so please reach out to us. As I said, we will be glad to support you and any individualized questions that you may have. Sorry, that was so fast.
Thank you, Anne. I appreciate those who stayed on because we ran out of time. I did continue to record it, but if you have any questions, Anne had put her email, and I think all the presenters had put their emails in the chat box. If for some reason you don't see it or you think of it later, feel free to email me and I'll connect you with any of the speakers today. And thank you each for presenting. I just wanted to make sure parents knew who to contact and when, or who to contact with their situation. All these groups are very experienced in many areas. So again, thank you all for coming. And next 2 weeks, we have SALT Talks on Tuesday nights, next week and the following week, and we're talking about dating, relationships, friendships, cyber friendships, that whole new world that's out there for us parents and what we're experiencing. So thank you again to all the presenters. I'm going to hang on for a few minutes in case someone has any questions, but I want to thank you guys for attending and have a great afternoon. Thank you, Teresa. Thank you, Anne.
Thank you.